back in '74 when we were recording at the record plant. I was in the jacuzzi room.
All right, here we go. Conversations with episode 4. I'm very, very, very happy to have the gentleman from the Hollywood Stars on. One of my favorite bands on the Golden Robot roster. Very, very excited to have the boys on. And just as I say that, Ches falls off. He goes into the ether. I'm sure he'll come back. Technology, it's just at its best with Zoom. Anyway.
And he's the youngest one, so, you know.
Yeah, that's it. There you go.
You think he'd know how to deal with it. You think he'd know how to, but I'm sure he'll come back. It's all good. So how's everybody dealing with the lockdowns and non-lockdowns and coronas, and how are we going?
We're drinking Coronas.
Do you think the corona?
There he is. He's back.
Do you think the corona went down? Do you think the corona stocks went down during coronavirus?
I think they did.
No, they absolutely down. People thought corona caused corona.
I know. You know, that's true, Scott. You know that a few people did think that.
Yeah. I'll bet there's been a huge impact on the lime prices too. Price of lime.
100%.
The airlines is going to go up.
Totally. I think it's the one thing that I've got so much better at during this lockdown. Obviously, we're locked down in Australia at the moment. But the one thing I've got much better at is being a bartender.
I'm a much better drinker than I was.
I make the most incredible margaritas now, and it's very, very like I've become an expert margarita maker.
Well, if they ever let you out of Oz into LA, we'll all have to sit down and have a couple of your margaritas.
100%. The only problem is I used to make them on a Friday and Saturday night. Now it's edging into Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday nights.
Yeah. Margarita Mondays.
Hollywood Star margarita mix.
Yes. Well,
Moon Daddies.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Ruben, because I was on the phone only this morning to Mexico, and we are going to launch a Golden Robot branded tequila.
All right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then once that's done, when there's a major record release, we will do a boutique, like a limited run for that band. So there will be, hopefully in the not too distant future, a Hollywood Stars branded tequila to go out with you. Now that would be cool. That would be.
Now I want to know, are the bands the ones that buy most of these?
I'll let you know.
Built-in market.
I'll let you know. That's exactly right. So boys, welcome. Thank you for doing this, quick chat with me. I know we're going to do a series of these because we're very excited to sort of talk about you guys and talk about your legacy, talk about the band. I mean, really, this band has been going since, November 8th, 1973.
Yeah, I know it's a very precise date, but Mark Anthony was big into numerology, so he kept track of all the dates. So we know the exact date.
I was going to ask you that. How do you actually know the exact date?
Yeah, Mark was big into numerology, and so he kept track of that stuff, like the dates and whatever had to add up to an 8 or something for success or whatever it was. I can't remember, but
yeah. I'm completely into that. So if you look at the band in the early days, so let's talk about that quickly. So if you look at the band in the 70s, right? What was the rock vibe, the rock music vibe like in LA, in America, in the early 70s? I mean, it must have been just another level.
Okay, prior to 1973, we had the singer-songwriter era, which I couldn't stand, but myself. We had James Taylor, we had Carole King,
You like Bob
Joni
Dylan?
Mitchell, all this like serious stuff, and they're getting more and more serious with every album. And rock and roll is not supposed to be that serious. It's supposed to be about fun.
Yeah.
So when the glitter glam scene came along, it was a welcome relief, like breath of fresh air. And I'm really happy that it happened.
And Ruben, to keep going with you for a little bit, what's been your highlight over the last how many ever years? What's the one thing that you've achieved that you're most proud of, you personally?
Oh, in my career?
Yeah. What's the one thing you've achieved that you feel like your legacy's hung on?
Well, my legacy is going to be the Hollywood Stars, but I'm kind of getting stuck with the Blue Cheer legacy because everybody dying, they're dead. And
They're just dying.
Well, John just disappeared. Was he in Blue Cheer as well?
John's gone, but John will be back. John will come back.
and I don't know what's going to happen when John Kay dies, and I could admit I was in Steppenwolf after he dies. But anyway, I guess my biggest legacy is the Hollywood Stars on the Strip. I mean, I toured around the country with other bands and everything, but Hollywood Stars will always be my main squeeze, my main concern.
Is it so exciting for you? Like, you guys, I know with Corona and I know with all the shutdown, all that stuff, it's been obviously the last 18 months, it's been very difficult to play live. But do you think that are you looking forward to playing live as much as you ever have in the past?
Oh yeah,
I want to.
I for one, I got to tell you, that's the most fun. Being back up on stage, and we're playing the Whiskey January 29th. Just putting that out there.
And so I just want to continue with Ruben for a minute. So Ruben, after all these years playing, Ruben, after all these years, what excites you about getting back on stage?
Just the rush that rock and roll gives you, and the audience reaction, the applause, everybody coming up to you, wanting to shake your hand, it's all exciting, it's a lot better than sitting home and drinking, I'll tell you.
Margarita.
And well, for me, it's
Depends
fun
on
to
what
play
you're drinking.
Yeah, totally.
Huh?
He's saying depends on what you're drinking.
I'm drinking beer. But,
Oh, well, there you go.
And so when you swap it over, Ches, when you're coming into a band with so many well-known players that have had such a rich history, and the tapestry of what they've done is incredible. How does it feel? Is it daunting to come into a band like this with this level of player?
It's not daunting. It's more like, wow. Because you got to understand, when I was a little kid, I got into these guys when I was a kid because I was a Kiss fan. One of those little kids that put the makeup on your face and the whole thing, And I was looking at the Kiss Destroyer album, and I saw on the back, song listings, and there was King of the Nighttime World, and I saw Kay Fowley and M. Anthony. I'm like, who are these guys? This isn't Stanley Simmons. And so I went on a quest to find out who these guys were. And I think it was either Circus or Hit Parader or Cream, one of those magazines. I read an article, and it talked about Kim Fowley and Mark Anthony and the Hollywood Stars. And it said that they recorded the song before. And so I went on the search looking for their album.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, there was these two hippies that I knew down the street. And they had this cool little record store called Moon Mountain Sound. And I went in there and I asked him, I go, have you ever heard of a band called the Hollywood Stars? And he goes, yeah, man, look, I know the Hollywood Stars, man. We got the album over here. So he took me to the cutout section. And sure enough, there was the Hollywood Stars, but it was the Arista album. And I was kind of sad, but I put that album on and I was like, wow, this is incredible. You know, they became one of my favorite bands. So to me, it's like, wow, I get to play with my heroes. That's really cool.
What was it about the band that made it your favorite band?
The songs, and it's rock and roll, good, catchy, well-written songs with, you know, nice guitars.
Yeah.
That whole thing, the drums, it wasn't pop like, you know, stupid pop. Like at the time, there was, you know, Barry Manilow or something. You know, This was rock with balls, you know, but yet good songs.
What did you do before you joined the Hollywood Stars?
I played in a lot of bands. I was in punk band, Kids of Chaos. I was in, rock bands, you know, put out records. We had our own record out at Tower Records, had the big, you know, banner out there in Tower Records on Sunset. Did that, and then my band won LA Music Awards. Royal Gents, we won LA Music Awards for Best Rock Artist. And I was just playing around, and I knew Michael Rummins, who played bass on the Arista album for the Hollywood Stars, and we had been friends. I had no idea he was in the Hollywood Stars, and he owned a rehearsal studio. And one day he was talking about, he goes, yeah, I got some publishing for a Kiss song. I'm like, how do you have publishing for a Kiss? And he's all, well, you know, King of the Nighttime World. And I go, you were in the Hollywood Stars? He goes, yeah, I was in the Hollywood Stars. And that's how we became friends. And then he called me up out of the blue and, you know, one day and asked me if I wouldn't mind, you know, auditioning and coming down and jamming with the guys. And I said, hell yeah, you know, yeah, hell yeah. So that's what that is.
And let me just also say, John, I know that you're still there, but you've dropped off. John, just hang up both and restart again.
Do it again.
Hang up. John, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. We just can't see you. But just rejoin the video. Keep your phone on, but just rejoin the video. Okay. So coming together now after all these years and having, you know, obviously new influence with Shez, etc. Scott, what excites you to keep this going? I mean, I know we've done a deal with Golden Robot and you've got a new label and etc. What excites you to do new music now after really all these years, 50-something years?
Who are you asking?
You, Scott.
Well, I'll tell you, for me, back to the live thing, performing live, I get a big charge out of it. But, you know, going back into the studio, especially, you know, with Terry and Ruben, because I recorded with them. My first record was with them. And then doing something new. It's like, can we really write some new stuff and do some new things that people will like? And, you know, it's a big, you know, it's kind of a gamble. But the stuff that we have, I think is pretty good. So that's very exciting to go back in the studio after all this time with this band that I've been with, you know, so many years ago, and recording some new stuff. That's pretty cool.
What changes, Terry? What changes for you after all these years when you're going into the studio? Does anything change? I mean, is it like, you know, you used to go for 12, 14 hours all night and drinking and recording? Does that all change, or what's the vibe these days?
Yeah, I hope it doesn't change.
I don't think we're going to be drinking on
the marathon recording session thing, but you know, it's probably not. It's probably going to be a lot different. You know, it's all digital, so
yeah,
there'll probably be a lot of shortcuts that we can do, and sounds that we probably couldn't come up with back in the day that we can do now.
Does that excite you? Does that excite the band to be able to do things with technology that you couldn't do back then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does shorten the process quite a bit to be able to, I mean, for example, you can just cut like a guitar part out and paste it somewhere else and let's say you had a great groove going, but somebody made a little mistake. Instead of like punching in 5 times to get it right, you can kind of cut and paste, and just the technology makes it a lot easier if you got a really good groove going if you make a mistake.
And John, you can hear us. Is that the same for you, John? Is it exciting for you to be heading back into the studio?
No, not at all. I love it. I love playing in the studio. It's a creative process that I really enjoy.
I asked
What's that?
Are you excited by it? You excited by it?
Oh, absolutely. Always. Absolutely. I'm excited to get these new songs down and just, rock out like we should be doing.
And is it a camaraderie?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can definitely hear you. Is it a camaraderie after all these years?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've known Ruben and Terry. We were in a band long before the Hollywood Stars. So yeah, it feels like it just feels home again. Like my old buddies are back in town.
What band was that?
That was the band Little Richard named, called the Living Flame.
Living Flame.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
Little Richard gave us a name.
tell me about that, Ruben. Tell me that story.
Well, my friend Randy and Kenny Austin, who were Mo Austin's sons, they saw me play at a high school auditorium dance, and I played Little Richard Lucille, and they knew I liked Little Richard, and so I went with John and Terry to the Hollywood Hotel on Sunset, and we were there for a couple hours, and he was talking to us, singing songs, and he was trying to come up with a name for our band, and he came up with the name Living Flame, and then he got me like in a knighting position where he's the king,
Yeah.
and he had a cane, and he had me kneel down, and he tapped me on each soldier and said,
With a sword?
"I now proclaim you the living flame."
Dub V.
I dubbed you the living flame, and I couldn't believe Little Richard did that. I was knighted by Little Richard, the king of rock and roll,
That's so cool.
and I was so happy, man.
What year was that? What year?
That was about 1972, 3.
Imagine 2 or 3. Yeah.
I can't remember if it was 3 or 2, but
Do you guys?
Terry was there. John
Terry
was there.
Yep.
Do you remember it, Terry?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy scene. I mean, the guy was a party animal, and the party was going on as all this was happening. So it was.
And John was there, you said?
John was there, yeah. I think he took John into a room by himself and asked him a bunch of questions, and John got out of there as fast as possible. Yeah, he got around in all different places.
He kept telling us, I taught the Beatles how to go, woo!
Yeah, right. He taught the Beatles.
Fantastic.
He
So
said about Mick Jagger, he said, people think Mick Jagger stuffed a sock down his pants, but I'll tell you, he got a tree trunk.
I don't know if you leave that on.
It is his business to know.
So as
I don't know if you want to keep that in, but
totally.
yeah, he was quite hysterical. He put on a turban, his wig and his turban, and he sang spirituals to us in the living room. Clapping his hands, singing, like old time Southern spirituals that I'd never heard before.
Was this in LA?
Yeah.
This is on Sunset Boulevard at a place called the Hollywood Hotel.
Yeah, great.
Was it
I
at the
think it didn't
Hyatt?
have that.
Or?
The Hollywood Hotel. And so, Ruben, if you drive down Sunset now in 2021, can you see, and this is to all of you, I suppose, Terry, as well, can you see and feel and hear the old days? Can you see what it was like still, or are they just completely gone?
Well, Terry's the expert at that. We were there the other night at the Whiskey, and we're walking down from the Rainbow, and Terry's pointing this used to be the Galaxy. This
Yeah.
used to be this. This used to be that. That's the table where we met John Lennon.
Wow.
You know, he knows all the spots, and you know, he remembers exactly. So
Yeah.
Terry.
No, now it's all they're ringing the rock and roll out of, you know, Sunset in Hollywood. It's,
Yeah.
you know, EDM, and it's just not the same at all. You know, and they killed it. The parking situation's bad. It's
Yeah.
And Terry,
It's not the 60s.
The whiskey's still
not-
jumping. Whiskey's still packed.
yeah.
yeah.
And people are going to the Rainbow. I don't know about
The
this
Rainbow.
latest thing, but
And Terry, when you walk into like the whiskey, I mean, you know, I've been to the whiskey 100 times as well, but when you walk in there, is it essentially the same as it was back then? Looks the same, feels the same?
No, it's changed so much over the
Really?
years, you know. I saw the Cream play there, and the stage was about this tall, you know. You could, if you were on the dance floor, you were standing right in front of Eric Clapton. So, you know, it's changed a lot. The stage is like 4 feet up now.
Yeah.
They used to have videos of people on the street that they would play when you came in there. Of course,
Really?
the go-go dancers are gone.
Yeah.
So all the stuff that was really unique about the 60s is not there anymore, including the bands that play there. by
Yeah.
the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's it going to feel like for the band to be back there in January next year to play a show?
Excellent.
It's
the
like
place
our
is gonna be
birthplace.
packed, and it's gonna be great.
I
It's
wanna
going
be there.
home.
Gonna be great.
I want to be there for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope you will be.
100%. Have you thought about supports and people that are going to play with you on the night?
Well, we're
Well,
not in charge of that this time.
Okay.
The whiskey is
I would-
booking the opening acts.
Yeah,
I kinda
they're
wish-
the opening
yeah.
acts, and I'm crossing my fingers. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping to get Rodney to do it, you know, be part of it, you know.
My
That'd be cool.
my idea was to have Rodney's English Disco
Yeah.
there, a recreation of Rodney's English Disco
Yeah.
and us, and that was my plan. But the guy at the booker at the whiskey wanted to. I don't know how the deal went, Scott. How did it go? I mean, how did it
I
turn
said,
out?
well, listen, I talked to him about supporting acts, and he goes, no, we'll take care of that. So that kind of like cut us out of the deal right there.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, look, at the end of the day, yeah. How long has it been since you played the whiskey?
Well, secret is we did play there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But before that, God, not since the 70s.
Wow. And what was that?
We've
gig like?
released 4 singles from that live show,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what was the
right.
name of the record label we released that
He
month?
knows that. He knows that.
100%. We know that live.
But
We know that live album very well.
right, but we can't say it was live at the whiskey. They want money for that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah, it went from 5,000 down to 1,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time the
How'd
album
that happen?
was $50, you know.
So
Live on the Sunset Strip.
let's talk about new music. Let's talk about and obviously we've released a few singles now from that live album, and everyone's getting reacquainted with the band and the power you have live. But it's obviously time for some new music. So, how long has it been since been between drinks? If we say we put a new album out mid next year, right? How long will that have been since you released your previous studio album, Scott?
For the Hollywood Stars,
Yeah,
that'd be 45 years.
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing that you've still got the ability, number one, to do it. It's amazing that people still want it, which I think is fantastic. And it's obviously an honor for us to be involved with that. So what's different this time around going into the studio? I know we talked about the technology and everything before and the vibe and the attitude, but what are you hoping that this album will seal the legacy and be a bookend, or will this be the beginning of, maybe a new album every 18 months? What are you hoping out of this?
Well, initially, I'm speaking for myself. I want to do this with this band, to to continue on what we left off so many years ago. I mean, the band broke up twice. Both times Mark Anthony broke up the band.
Mhm.
So one thing that's different is Mark Anthony's not in the studio with us. I think that we'll have a little bit more teamwork this time around. Ches is filling in a lot of the gaps that Mark did as far as writing songs.
Mhm.
But I just think everybody's role is a little bit more defined. And like I said, I think there's a little bit more camaraderie and teamwork that's going to go into this. Mark was such a talented songwriter that I can't speak for the second album, but the first album for sure, we look back on it, the three of us, Terry, Ruben, and I look back on it and go, wow, why did we record that song again? Why didn't we record this other one? And the odds are that it was, Mark liked one song better than another. So I think we'll have a little bit more democratic result here.
Are you trying to make the sound like it was 45 years ago? Or are you trying to do Hollywood stars, 2022?
I think
Maybe
it's a little
halfway in
bit.
between.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think I think it's a little bit. Oh, sorry, Terry. Go ahead, Terry.
Sorry, I thought Terry was sorry. Ches, go on.
Well, it's kind of, it's very hard to recreate something, because has its own time and place. But I think you can because these guys have that in their blood, so it's going to come out anyway.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize that we've had so many things happen after that, punk rock and all sorts of stuff. So there is a little bit more of an edge in music, especially in rock and roll, that you have to kind of take in, when you're going to start doing new music. And I think it'll tweak those little things a little bit more. It's going to be a rockin' album, I can tell you that. I can tell you this album is going to really rock. And people are going to be blown away about how good it's going to be and how much ass it kicks. Okay.
Yeah, right. I love that. All right.
Yeah.
So just before we wrap everything up, you guys have got to know me a little bit over the last year or so, but I'm a massive Led Zeppelin fan, and everything to me starts and ends with Led Zeppelin. Has anyone got a good Zeppelin story for me?
Zeppelin.
Yeah, I do.
I thought you wrote it beautiful. I was hoping you did.
We were playing the Holly Stars, we're playing the Starwood. And after the show, after the set, I'm backstage with my roadie and my speaker cabinet like unscrewed because one of the speakers shorted out during the show. And this guy comes up. I had a flashlight when I'm looking in the into the cabinet, and a guy comes up behind me and says, "Hey, can I fix that for you?" And I look up and it's Jimmy Page.
Wow.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa. Well, no, just go over there and have a beer, like, you don't, you're not here to work, and he was like looking at my pedals and all the stuff I was playing through, spying on my stuff. That's what he is. Like he fucking spies on people's shit.
Yeah. And what year was that?
Huh?
What year was that?
That was like 77.
77.
And we have another Jimmy Page story. Back in 74, when we were recording at the record plant, I was in the jacuzzi room.
I knew the jacuzzi was going to come up.
I knew it too. I was hoping it would come up.
Jacuzzi room, and I was in there, and all of a sudden, the proprietor of the record plant comes in with Jimmy Page and B.B. Buell, and he goes, "Do you mind if Jimmy uses the room for a while?" And I told Jimmy, I said, "Hey, Stevie Wonder's been in here for 3 days and with 2 girls, and they haven't cleaned it, and there's all kinds of shit floating around on in the water and all that." And he goes, "No dirtier than I am." I said, "Okay, go ahead, man." And so anyway, when they went in there, Terry and I climbed up on the roof. There's a little vent that you can look down in the jacuzzi. And Terry, he's got his eyes.
He's looking through the vent.
But we had our little voyeurism moment there.
That's great.
And yeah, it was funny, man. You know, every time I see Jimmy Page, that guy's smiling. I mean, he hasn't got a lot of reason to smile, but the guy smiles through everything. That dude, man. I wish I could be like that.
That's so super cool. I love that. I love that. Well, look, it was a pleasure, boys, to have a chat with you. This is going to be we're going to do a couple of these, as you know. This is going to be episode or series episode 4, but part one of a chat with you boys. I wanted sort of people to get behind the scenes a little bit and talk about the new music and going back and forwards without boring the shit out of anybody. So, but I think it flowed beautifully, and I really appreciate your time. I know John's listening in, and we'll get John on camera for the part 2, but it was an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to many things. The live gigs in January, the new music. Everybody knows they can jump on all the DSPs and grab that whiskey album live. That we won't say it's a whiskey album.
Live on the Sunset Strip.
Live on the Sunset Strip. That's right. So, boys, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of Conversations With.
Thank you, Mark.
Dennis Mitchell.
See you,
Take
boys.
care, Mark.
Thank you, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.